Okay, so I had this ready. Hopefully it will work well, and you'll all be able to see it. There is
Is your face on here?
what's coming around to you we're going to get to in a second, and I'll explain why you're getting that handed to you. But, okay, so tonight, I was actually told about 15 minutes. Sorry, Supervisor Whitaker, who keeps telling me I have to keep it under 5. I will try not to waste too much time, and I will try not to talk too fast. For the DA's office, in 2015 so far to date, we have filed 2,830 criminal cases. And we are comprised of 3 main units: the prosecution unit, that's our attorneys and our administrative staff; our investigations bureau, who helps investigate crimes, they serve subpoenas, they do all of the coordination and contact with witnesses, and help in trial preparation and several other things that you're going to talk about tonight. And then we also have our victim witness division, and they are responsible to support and provide resources to victims and witnesses of criminal acts in Sutter County. But everything I want to talk about tonight from this point forward is all new. What I just told you is basically what the office does and has always done, but these are the new programs, the new efforts, and the new organizations that have come about in the last 12 months. The first is an active shooter training. I have 2 in my office, 2 certified active shooter trainers, and I've got names on here of everyone who's doing each of these programs. I'm not going to say them out loud. You're welcome to look at them if you have any questions, but I did include who's working on all of these projects. So I have 2 certified instructors who've worked with the county and have scheduled for January the first active shooter training we are taking to all county departments. We've worked with the Sheriff's Department as well to coordinate this. It's called the ALICE training. It's a national training that's gone successfully to many different organizations. We've done it within my own office, and so this is something that we're working to provide for all of the county to help with public safety. All right, currently, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Sutter County District Attorney's Office, their computer case management system is a DOS system. It was last updated in 1992. So for the last year, we've done a lot of shopping around, we've gone on site visits, and now we're in the stage where we've received bids and we're working on looking at a final price. We've narrowed it down to 2 possible vendors, and we're gonna move towards updating our case management system, which not only will bring us to a much more efficient and current technology base, it's going to allow us to go paperless. We are incredibly excited about this because it will save an estimated 1.5 attorney salary annually. It will also expedite what we do and really make things a lot more seamless and efficient. We started early in 2015 a bi-county gang prosecution unit with Yuba County. I have 2 deputy DAs as well as investigators and agents from Sutter and Yuba County law enforcement that meet monthly to staff cases. They combine resources, they combine training. A lot of times they communicate, because this also may shock you, but some criminals actually cross county lines. So it's helpful. And this has led to more successful prosecution, preparation, and sentencing in gang cases. Speaking of the gang task force itself, we have in Sutter County, you guys probably already know this, we have agents assigned to the Net 5 and gang task force combined. The Sutter County DA's office has not been a part of that for many years. We are now back to being a part of, well, we've always been a part of the board, but we haven't had an agent there, so we do now. We have 1 investigator who's over at the task force, who is helping to assist and train new agents. He's improving communications and several other things that also has improved prosecution. So that's been a good step as far as county-wide resources. One of the efforts that we have in the works right now is a forensic task force. The way the world is today in 2015, going into 2016, a vast majority of our criminal cases involve computers and cell phones. So many of our cases, do we have evidence on computers or cell phones? We can prove crimes because of those. However, it's a technical area that most of our law enforcement officers are not trained in. We did have some very trained law enforcement officers about a year ago from both Yuba City Police Department, Sutter County Sheriff's Department. They have both since left. So for the last several months, we don't have a single trained forensic analysis person who can do these cases. What that means is some of the more important, serious cases that we have that involve a lot of computer analysis have been sitting, and they're not getting processed. And so we are working to combine resources and share the cost of computers, training. I already have 2 investigators who have been through the forensic analysis training, and we're putting together a task force The police department's already put a bunch of equipment towards it. The sheriff's department has equipment. We have training, and we're trying to make it a county-wide effort so that we don't have these delays and this waste of time and resources. In July of 2015, my office initiated the Theft or Fraud Task Force. That's the chart that you have in front of you. That is information that talks about exactly what we've been doing in Sutter County. I finally realized something earlier in the year, and that is that the postal fraud, the mail fraud problem we have in this county is not going out of county. Some places have the problem, we really don't. I talked to Colusa and Yuba. They don't have any cases open right now. We have, as you can see, over 70 suspects. The reason for that is we have identified about 3 key rings, kind of sounds funny, key ring, of these fraud organizations where they train people. You have some really sophisticated criminals. They train all these people below them, and what they do is they go and commit mail theft. By the way, a P.O. box is the way to go. If you want the most secure mail you can have. The community boxes are the least secure, just so you know. They go, they steal people's mail, and then they use their mail to steal their identity. They get into their bank accounts, and they drain their bank accounts, and we have a huge problem in Sutter County, and the victims are the innocent, hardworking people in the county. It's not the type of crime where you can really target who a victim might be. It's any one of us. And so I created this task force. We've taken that chart to every law enforcement agency in the county. There's a constant communication that's gone on, and since we've done that, we've had over 20 arrests. We've had more than 9 prosecutions that are already complete with sentencing. Many of them have gone to prison, and all of them have been ordered victim restitution. So whatever they've stolen from the members of our community, they're ordered to pay back. If they go to prison, it's taken from their prison earnings. And we've also conducted trainings with all of our law enforcement agencies to work in this. We've had an incredible amount of success. So I'm excited. That's one of my favorite pet projects. As far as trainings that I just briefly touched on, starting in December of 2015, my office goes to every law enforcement agency in the county, every month, every briefing for every shift. So that works out to 9 trainings a month, and each month we have a different topic we take to them. We talk about whether it's search and seizure or fraud or whatever the month's effort is. And we go and we meet with the law enforcement officers. We get down on their line staff level, and we talk about issues in our county and increase training. What I love about that, even better than the training, is it increases communication. So our collaborative efforts with our law enforcement partners has really skyrocketed since we started doing that. We just now finally formalized and signed off on a bi-county officer-involved shooting task force with Yuba County. You see in there the people involved in that. That's the Yuba County Sheriff's Department, Yuba County District Attorney's Office, my office, our Sheriff's Department, and the Yuba City Police Department. So for the first time ever, we have a uniform protocol for a critical incident and officer-involved shooting call-out investigations, which is huge. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but it's awesome. We're working on a human trafficking multi-agency coordinated investigations. We actually, I don't know if you know this, but there's a big human trafficking problem in this area of the state, and we've been constantly monitoring it, and we've got a lot in the works there. We also have started looking at some cold cases, and I've got investigators in my office who are working constantly with detectives at the Sheriff's Department. We're looking at available grants because we have so many cold cases, but we have one that we're ready, really close to bring to prosecution. They're all cold case homicides, and so we're able to conduct new investigations. In fact, last week, was it last week? We were out and did a reenactment of a murder with it was a drive-by, so we had the vehicles out there and all of the measurements. It was really cool. We were able to establish who the shooter had to be based on this reenactment. So we've got some great work going there, and it's collaborative effort as well with all of our law enforcement partners. We've been working on the death penalty system in California, working to fix the problems that have stalled the death penalty since 2006. There hasn't been an execution, but the problem is that it's a costly and right now time intensive effort, and so we're working to fix that so that we can still have the death penalty for those heinous of all heinous crimes, but it's very judiciously used. My Victim Witness Division has recently received increased funding from the state. We have put together a plan, which you will be receiving very soon, to reorganize the division. That will include retraining for a trained therapist, We're going to provide on-site services to victims and witnesses of crimes for the first time ever. We're going to be increasing staff and effectiveness so that we can actually provide the resources necessary to people who've been through these traumatic events and now have to go through the court system and relive these traumatic events. And so, in my personal opinion, providing this for the victims of crime in Sutter County is a priority that really has not been made as enough of a priority. So we're really excited about this opportunity to rebuild. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is we've got some community outreach efforts that talks about the fraud unit. But one of the things that we have doing is an education piece to the fraud unit so that people understand how to protect your mail best. You know, there's a huge crossover between fraud, the mail fraud, and elder abuse. There are so many people being targeted because they're retired in our community. And so we've working there. I've got one person who's actually going to the senior center and educating them, and I personally have been over there educating them. And so we're working on some of that information. Project Lead is a pet project I want to start next year, and it's going into the schools. Studies show that 5th grade is the year. If you want to prevent kids turning to crime, 5th grade is the year. And statewide, there's some projects that's all coming off of this Project Lead that go into the schools and really help with preventative efforts of crime and gang activity. So we're working on that. This is all things that I've already excuse me, as far as community outreach. So at this point, I think that's the end of my PowerPoint. That is the end of my PowerPoint. So I kind of went through everything really quick. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what we've been working on, but we've been really excited. So, any questions? I'm under 15, right?
Turn your mic on, please, Barbara.
It's on.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a couple comments. First of all, I want to thank you for what a great job you have done since you've become the DA. And all of these programs, I think, is extremely important to the safety of the community. I have one question. On the mail fraud, is that, I mean, it would make sense. I live in a rural area, so I'm always very careful and do have a P.O. box. But is also in the urban area as well?
It's more frequent in the urban areas, but it is a problem in rural. Yep. But more frequent in the urban areas.
Interesting.
Because it's easy access. They can hit 10 houses in 10 minutes.
Yeah. And the other issue that you brought up that I know you and others have educated me on over, maybe almost 2 years ago, was human trafficking. And I was amazed at that time how much is going on here in this county. And since then, I think all of us who've been to RCRC, Regional Council of Rural Counties, and the California State Association of Counties, this issue has been on our agenda in terms of educating county supervisors throughout the state of California on what's going on with this human trafficking issue. So I applaud you for taking on that issue as well. And
it is huge, and I will tell you right now, in the future when things are hush-hush and in the works, I'd be happy to talk to you more about it. But my staff, I feel so sorry for them. I think they hear me complaining and talking about our human trafficking effort more than anything else, and they just want me to just stop because it is such a huge problem and there is such a huge need. You guys probably, I'm educating those who probably are. Sacramento is number 2 in the nation for human trafficking.
And I think, I remember this at RCRC, and I think some of you were there as well, and watching people, because I'd already heard of this, I was familiar with it. And I looked at the faces of some of those supervisors, and it was the first time they had ever heard of it. In particular, there was a sheriff from Madera County that was very outspoken about it and what they're doing down in that area. So again, thank you for all you're doing, Amanda. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Through the chair.
Sir.
I'd like to thank our district attorney, Ms. Hopper, also for your presentation. And looking at, as Supervisor LeVake said, human trafficking issues that is affecting statewide. And we have been informed and been to several conferences on this issue. And also for advocating for the death penalty. I put in for that position every year, but they don't take me up on it. And I told them that I would not even take a lunch break, but they still never accept my application. So one quick question, though, I did have is that how important is, because this comes up for budget hearings every time, is that the Net 5 Gang Task Force. And the reason I ask that is because the sheriff is always, Parker is always wanted to stay in with the Net Gang Task Force, Net 5 Gang Task Force, and other agencies seem like they want to pull out. And so, just from your perspective, could you give us, something, an insight?
I actually think that task force is huge for our community. It makes a big difference. And I'm going to tell you a little bit just from my viewpoint, and then I'll tell you why I think it's important. I have never seen a serious drug or gang case that didn't come through them. I've never seen it. You don't see it come from the untrained officers. They can't put together that type of a case without the type of training that our Net 5 agents have. And so if you talk about lab busts, if you talk about controlled buys, if you talk about the people who we've had recently running over from the Mexican border, it's not going to happen. There will be no investigations and no arrests without that task force. It's just not possible. So it's a huge amount of training, but what they do better than any other agency in the county, in my personal opinion, in 2 counties, is communicate. They pull together the resources and the knowledge of every law enforcement officer in 2 counties and put it into one place. Because I can't tell you how many times, someone will make an arrest and then we find out 5 months later, another officer had really key information on that arrest, but there wasn't enough communication. And so the task force, they put that together. They know our criminals. They know where to go looking for them. They have contacts and informants. I think they're absolutely vital. But I do have with me my chief investigator, Jason Parker, who's been a longtime participant at Net 5. Do you have anything to add?
If you could step up to the microphone, because obviously we're being videoed.
And I will say, I meet regularly with the board. At this point, I don't think anyone wants to back out of it because it's so important.
My name is Jason Parker. I'm working at the DA's office currently, but I was assigned to the Net 5 task force for about 6 years. One of the biggest things in this area is the lack of state and federal efforts, specifically for the Yuba City area or Yuba Sutter counties. If you look at Sacramento, the range of the federal agents and the state task forces that reach, it's like a circle that goes out and stops just short of Yuba City area. And then on the north end, you have up in Redding area, other federal and state task forces. And again, their reach covers through Chico area, down to Oroville, and we seem to be right in the middle of that miss of those 2 circles. So without those agents building cases that will meet federal criteria, you don't have that direct representation. It's those guys putting cases together here at the street level, working them up to larger dealers, and then reaching out to the federal and state task forces and saying, we've already identified this group, we've worked this case up to a point, and then they're willing to come in and help us. But it's very huge, that task force, and every time I see the membership kind of dwindle, it's really concerning, because once that's gone, we don't have that state and federal coverage.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And probation's also here, who's always had somebody on the task force. They're much more involved than we are, so.
It's good to know. My last question is obviously Christmas coming around. You had a wish list on certain positions or something in your office that would say, wow, if I had this position or if I had these people on board, I could really do something well in this county.
Yes.
What would it be?
Clone me.
What's that?
Clone me.
Clone you.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's your
gosh.
wish.
That's your list.
No, I really would love to have somebody who can organize all of these efforts, who can help out with that. We are short-staffed. We are running ragged. My staff has stepped up amazing, but I'd love to have somebody coordinate all those efforts, do the community outreach, do the public information. That would be fantastic.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Through the chair.
Sure.
A couple of
I'm
things,
sorry,
Amanda.
Supervisor Flores?
That's okay. I just want to also commend you tonight and thank you for the presentation and definitely for the work that you've done since you've taken office, done some great things. You outlined so many different topics tonight that my head's still kind of spinning from all the notes, so hopefully we can share those notes that we
I can
have.
send you this PowerPoint if you guys want it.
Great, and I'd also commend you for the ongoing education that you're doing and the different topics, and I'd like to see if we could something on human trafficking. I know that some of us attended a really good seminar over in CSAC, and it is a big issue, and I was one of the ones who's very shocked by the extent of human trafficking that is occurring. I do have one question for you, though. So you outlined all of these different things, and Supervisor Whitaker talked to you about your wish list for Christmas, and I just want, what do you see as the biggest challenge, the single biggest challenge for your office since you've been in, or since that you've been able to tackle, or that you still see as a big challenge?
Probably the single biggest challenge, and it's such an ongoing one, is improving our actual prosecutions. I really think that's gonna be it's an ongoing challenge. It's making sure that we get everything right, that we prepare, that we go into court, that we get the right and just outcomes in our plea negotiations, and when we go to trial on the right cases. We are working constantly on that, and I just think it's going to be an effort that we're always going to be trying to be better. And one of the things I didn't mention in there, and I want to thank you guys, is I've been able to send my attorney to some really good trainings this year because you guys kept my training budget as I requested. And so we're working on that, and my guys are doing great.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Just for those of us that are hearing about gun carrying these days, is your training process in here that you've got going, does that mean that if we're in that class, we can go down and get a CCW?
No, we are not CCW providers, but we can certainly help you stay alive if somebody comes in here with a gun,
Great.
hopefully.
Thank you, Amanda. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good.
All right.